Ladies and gentlemen, it looks like the Waka finally got the job.
And they say that South Africa is dead. David Unterhalter, one of the preeminent legal scholars and minds in his country, is now officially a judge on the Supreme Court of Appeal. However, for the longest time, the JSC, which appoints judges, said that they will never choose him because Julius Malema, who is on the JSC, said this guy is white, Jewish, and therefore sort of can't be trusted. But somehow he still has been appointed. Ironically, Byron, Julius Malema wasn't at the JSC when this decision was made.
No, and possibly, Ramon, he was up there in Limpopo, having a big old Barney with the ANC, because news came out that apparently the ANC and the EFF clashed in Limpopo. And by clashed, I mean, they were like shooting each other and everything, man. Like these guys, apparently the news was they rocked up in buckies and they all jumped out and they bricks and the crap out of each other. I mean, we love to see it. I mean, we're not going to lie. But it's very funny that the ANC came out and said, you know what, we don't need SAPs to help us because we got stones and guns and we'll kick the crap out of the EFF if they come around our town. You know what? I want the ANC on this one. Hey, I want to see that. I'll pay for that on pay-per-view.
Yeah, I'll pay lots of money to see that. So this happened in a place called, ironies of ironies, Juju Valley. If you don't know why that's funny, you haven't been in South Africa long enough. And the ANC and the EFF basically just blitzed on each other the whole day. Unfortunately, a child was shot in the head in the crossfire, which is ironic because for those who keep speaking about, you know, the black child and how difficult it is to be a black child, I assume the first thing you would not do is like shoot one in the head, but that's what the EFF has done in this particular case. Maybe they were fighting about the fact that the EFF still hasn't built that school that they promised some years back. I know there's like 6 months to go, but have you seen the school anywhere, Byron? Because I certainly have not.
No, I haven't. And in fact, in that area in Juju Valley, I mean, names of all ironies, the interesting thing is that there were no real EFF supporters there either, because the ANC claims that the EFF bust in. The EFF mostly peaceful protests, and that is what caused the problem. The EFF with a rented mob? Well, that's never happened.
So the reason why we're saying all this is because we think that the influence of the EFF is in terminal decline. If you just look at the polling in and of itself, they're polling at around 8%, so a 2% margin of error gives them maybe 10, 11% maximum. It really is time to maybe reflect on what has Julius Malema brought to the EFF, because in the 10 years of the EFF being around, they've been the 10% party for over half of that. There's no significant growth anywhere. The judges he doesn't want to be appointed have been appointed. The ANC are shooting at him. There's no school being built. What is the point of the EFF these days? Because I just can't see it.
Well, see, Ramon, originally the idea behind the EFF when it was founded, just remember it was set up in direct opposition to Jacob Zuma, because Jacob Zuma had him expelled from the party because of the whole, Zuma must fall protests. Now, the reason that becomes interesting is because the EFF are now, pali with Jacob Zuma, following, the Naklandla Tea Party. Now, why that becomes interesting, Ramon, is because you see, the EFF always had this mantra, right? So it was superior logic, it was superior economics, it was science-based economics that Juju pulled out his backside. But the biggest difficulty they've had now is they've actually had government. And they always said, give us a place to run and we'll show you what we can do. Well, we gave them a place to run. It's called eThekwini. And man, it's a freaking shithole. I mean, literal shithole, because there's like shit everywhere. The beaches are full of shit. The streets are full of shit. There's no water. There's no electricity. The problem is, what we are now seeing is the EFF governance. It's a freaking disaster.
And again, it's like 900,000 blacks don't have access to water anymore. I mean, they used to before, under the ANC and under the National Party. But when the EFF gets into power, that water somehow has disappeared. It is ironic that the EFF keeps saying they support the black masses, they support the black child, the whites are bad, drive them to the sea. But, I mean, the EFF have treated blacks far worse than whites have ever done in history, I would argue. Because it's a crime against humanity not to have water. It's a crime against humanity to stew in literal sewage. But this is what the EFF is doing to the people of Durban. This is what they're doing to the people of Ekurhuleni. This is what they're doing to the people of Johannesburg. The EFF is in power in 3 of the most important metropolitan areas in this country. And in the 18 months to 3 years that they have been in power in those areas, the decline has not just been remarkable, it has been accelerating to a degree that we have never seen before. Normal people can't have normal things, including water, including sewage, including picking up litter. Thanks a lot, EFF. So much for loving blacks, isn't it?
If you want me to see, this is the problem with the EFF. They all think that they're too smart. They're the only smart ones in the room, even though they're dumb. I'm going to give you an example of that. So the EFF's senior researcher of economics basically came out and said that the investors, private capital, would benefit from an EFF government. You see, they claimed that the DAs claimed that the EFF, the national government, would cause capital flight is bullshit. Because they said, John Steenhuisen did not understand how investors think. Think of the irony. He even goes on so far as to say, when Parliament closes, John should go out there and, just study a little bit of economics, because then he'll understand how things go. Because the EFF will grow the economy and attract investments. When this individual was challenged around their nationalization policies, he says, private sector has no right to tell us what we should do and what kind of economic certainty they should get. And he says that they will continue with the nationalization and land expropriation policies. They'll nationalize the Reserve Bank, and the private individuals will just take what they get given. Mate, that's not how private investors work. You asking me to put my money on the line, I want my money to be safe. Not that hard to understand. So what we're seeing here is that, again, insults get thrown to others, but the stupid person in the room is you. And for the longest time, no one else understood that. But everybody else is seeing it very, very clearly now. And so the claims to superior logic, ooh, look how great we are, it's kind of being disproved by themselves.
It's very hollow if people are literally living in shit under your watch, right? How can I trust your economic policy that a very difficult to understand, very complex set of policies about nationalization and state banks and all sort of stuff, right? We're supposed to believe you on that, but you can't even get like a sewage pipe to work in Durban. You can't even get a pool filled up on the Durban main beach in time for December. You can't even do the most basic things required to be called a human being. Yet we must somehow appreciate your superior logic. Any retard can fill a pool and paint it properly, except for the EFF. Why should we trust them on anything else?
So all the charges that we've historically seen of racism, white monopoly capital, and something, it's all ringing really hollow now. Because you know what? Slogans and populism really don't mean much. When people don't have water, there's shit in the street, there's no jobs. Then it doesn't matter how much you tell us how brilliant you are. As they say in the Bible, you shall judge a man by the fruits of his labor. In this instance, the fruits of his labor is diarrhea.